Back once again for the renegade master. 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 Back once again for the renegade master.
Hello my renegades and welcome back, and we are back to Married at First Sight series 8 and we are now on episode 15. Let me right my camera. So before we get into it, as I always say, please hit that subscribe button, please hit that notification button so when you know I am back on and doing videos. And let's get into this episode because we are at the point of confessions of the sofa, aka the commitment ceremony as I like to call it. And things definitely happened within this situation. So everybody, as you know, was talking about the dinner party and the situation that went on there. Basically Porscha was talking about the fact that she was not the only one playing the game and she was having fun with her friends. That's how she's seen it with Terrence. She was saying it to Terrence. She was having fun with her friends at the end of the day. And it's true, she was not the only one playing the game. So I don't understand why Portia's been the complete scapegoat while these other husbands, whoever she was kissing, were absolutely quiet. Like proper quiet, not a bleat out of anyone to say, you know what, it weren't all that. At the end of the day, it was just a game and we were all flipping drunk. Don't take too much from it. No one came up. And I'm like, as Portia's talking, Terrence's face is always saying something. And I think at this point, Terrence was like, you know what, I think I'm kind of out. So it doesn't really matter what you have to say. He said something was stinging him, but didn't say anything to Porscha. And this is where I thought Terrence was a fucker for that. Because he was making it appear to Porscha as though everything was all right. That they were in a good place. That they were in at a good space with each other. That they had a pretty good marriage and she was open and honest with him. But he wasn't being open and honest with her in terms of his feelings. I don't know whether he kept them strong because he knew if he said something, she would literally go off on one and cause a whole set of issues. As I said, he's the type of guy, as he said, he doesn't like to be in drama and he doesn't like to be in mess. And he believes that Porscha, I think he believes that Porscha brings that drama and brings that mess. So he did not say anything. Basically, he lied by omission by keeping his mouth shut, by making her believe that everything was okay when it wasn't. And he really should have spoken to her about his issues, about his feelings before he got to the confessions of the couch. That is all I'm saying on that point. So then it moves to like George and basically saying to Peggy that he don't give a F what others say about him in regards to that. He said what he said and he's going to stand by it, is what he said. Peggy basically said that she was hurt by Ella saying that she didn't trust her because she was one of these. Ella and Peggy literally formed a close relationship when they first come in to this show, and she didn't want to lose that relationship. You get Peggy basically playing a little bit of the victim by saying that everybody treated her unfairly and was throwing her under the bus at the end of the day. And basically she was the one that was taking the brunt of everyone's ire. And I'm like, but you had a hand, you and your husband, Peggy, had a hand in how that situation played out at the end of the day. You could have had that chat with George to say, don't roll anything up, don't bring it up. At the end of the day, it is what it is. Let them sort it out between each other, and if we have to, then we'll go over and have a chat and chat with Porscha and Terrence on their own, or we'll go and have a cup of tea with them and chat with them on their own. But you didn't even try to preempt what was going to happen, even down to the dinner party when you sat there and you knew George was het up. You knew George was het up and was going to say what he wanted to say. You didn't stop him. You didn't stop him in any way, shape or form, or try to at least put a barrier in place to say, nah, you can't do this, because at the end of the day, it's going to look bad on me because I'm your wife. Whatever you do retracts to me because I'm your wife. She didn't have those conversations with him because she was quite happy for him to go home. It wasn't until everybody was setting on George and Ella turned around and says to her that they don't like him. None of the couples hold him in high regard at all. And even though she feels that and she knows that, you didn't do anything to try and preempt what was going to happen. You were quite happy to jump on that train and choo down the railway tracks with this man because at the end you started throwing everybody under the motherfucking bus just to deflect from the behavior that you caused. So then you have Erica and Jordan putting in perspective in terms of their own relationship, and the fact that Erica's there spouting off, as she said, that she thought that, you know, as they were more long-standing couples here, that they'd be more further along than them two. And she's quite relieved to see that that's not necessarily the case. And I'm like, you kind of need to call your jets there, my love. You kind of need to call your jets. You're okay. You come in on an even keel with your husband. You and your husband like each other. You and your husband have that chemistry. Whereas with others, it's not there straight away. So they have to work on that. That's what a marriage is. You work on those things. It doesn't all just come to you straight away in that sense. You still have to work on the issues that happen. So you two just haven't hit a blip yet. So for you to say that, you know, you thought the other couples would be more along, it's a bit of a cop-out, because you don't know the couples. At the end of the day, you don't know the other couples. You're only just meeting them now. So on that point, I think Erica should have kept her mouth out of it in that sense. But as we know, she did. And we go to Bianca and JJ. And all I can say is JJ is boring as hell. Like, absolutely boring as hell. He has an indifference in his marriage to Bianca, basically, because she doesn't look a certain way. If she looked a certain way, because I knew straight off the bat when he come in, the people that he would probably find attractive was Ella and Erica. I just had that feeling that that's what would happen, that he would find Ella and Erica attractive. And this is the thing, you see a difference, and we'll get onto it because it definitely comes up, I think, in the next episode when they all have their where they all split off into groups and go and have a couple day basically with different couples. And you definitely see, as I said in my previous episode, if JJ thinks you are attractive or you are his type, this man will stop at nothing. This man will stop at nothing at the end of the day. And this is why I feel it for Bianca, because she's never going to get to that point with this dude. Like, never going to get to that point for this dude. And all this is showing me is that JJ is as shallow as hell. Absolutely shallow as hell. So you tell them exactly what it is that you want from experiencing somebody who was your preference cheating on you. You get exactly what the experts gave you in terms of what it was you were looking for in terms of substance in a marriage and how you would want your wife to be within that marriage. You get it, but then don't want it because it doesn't come in the fucking glorious packaging that you deem acceptable. JJ's a prick. He's a shallow prick. So then you see Peggy basically make the decision to go and see Ella because she literally wanted to clear the air with Ella. No, she wanted to clear the air with Ella, but not with Porscha. She didn't want to clear the air with Porscha and the shit that her and George caused in the relationship between Terence and Porscha at the end of the day. She didn't want to do that. So basically, Ella turned around and told her the truth and said that, like, she will support her, but not her husband. And just wanted to make it clear that I don't think anybody has a good standing in terms of your husband at the end of the day. And I think Peggy is well aware of that. She is well aware of that. So Peggy is there telling Ella about what hurts her the most. You know, what hurts Peggy the most. She's hurt Ella, but it's what hurts Peggy the most. That she'd never said a bad word about Ella and Nathaniel. And I'm like, shall we wind those tapes back? Shall we wind those tapes back? Because you had a lot to say in regards to their marriage. Even though you may have not directly called them out on their character per se, yeah, you did say a bad word about their marriage. Ergo, you said a bad word about Ella and Nathaniel. That's how it works. You ain't got one without the other, love. You said a bad word about them. Deal with it. So then it cuts to Terence having a chat with George and Jordan. Now, I think this was a producer plant or something like that to get it interesting in terms of them having a conversation about the situation. But I'm like, Jordan's just come in. He ain't been in there but a minute. Why is he sitting in this conversation with George and Terence? Because at the end of the day, the conversation should have just between Terence and George. That's where the conversation should have been. Because the problem was with George, not with Jordan. So I don't understand why Jordan was there at the end of the day. So basically, Terence was talking about him and Porscha had been in a good place, and that Terence wasn't there. Terence wasn't there. He'd left, and a situation occurred. And this is why George said, "This is why I was sticking up for you, though, Terence." And I'm like, "No, George, you were frustrated in the fact that you weren't getting your ding ding checked, and you wanted to take your frustration out on someone else. The perfect opportunity was given to you when Jay spoke about the situation that happened between Porscha and a few other couples. You latched onto that and decided, I'm going to call out this bullshit behavior because you couldn't deal with the nonsensical of your own marriage at the end of the day. You couldn't deal with the situation that's going on between you and Peggy at the end of the day." That's what it came. That's what I think it boiled down to. It was born out of born frustration. So he saw Porscha as a target, not realizing that in targeting Porscha, you're targeting Terence and their whole marriage as a whole. That's what he did. So for you to sit there and say that you were sticking up for Terence, it's a bag of bull. It's an absolute bag of bull at the end of the day, because situations happen between Terence and Porscha previously. Did I see you stick up for Terence then? The only person that stuck up for Terence then was Luke. So I know George is full of shit. So Jordan basically asked Terence at the end of the day, would he call what Porscha did cheating? Because for Jordan, if Erica did it, he would class it as a semblance of cheating. But what they're failing to realize is it wasn't just Porscha in that scenario. Porscha was not kissing herself, as I've already said. She weren't kissing herself. So why is nobody going and speaking to the husbands that was actually engaging in the game itself as well? Why is nobody speaking about them? Why is no one speaking up about them? Why does it just have to be all on Porscha's shoulders? You know what, as the woman, as the woman, it's all on her shoulders. No, because it takes two to tango. It takes two. And so Porscha wasn't kissing the air by herself. At the end of the day, other people were engaging in kissing Porscha. So why is none of them brought up? Basically, Terence said that he felt that if it was him that did it, that Porscha would see it as cheating. And this is where I said with Terence, he should be having these conversations with Porscha. He should literally be digging deep and having the conversations with Porscha in the fact that he does not feel comfortable in what happened and how that exploded that night. He doesn't feel comfortable, and I don't think he feels comfortable being the sensation of the week, basically, because they were the sensation at the beginning of the week and now they're the sensation again, and he doesn't like it. He doesn't like being in that scenario at all. So now I've got to the point where I'm thinking his talk with George and Jordan, the main aim was basically to twist his head out of a married with Porscha. That's how I'm saying it. He literally talked himself out of a way of a marriage with Porscha, and that was the cusp of what he was using. That was the cusp and the basis of what he was using to get himself out of his marriage with Porscha. So, and to be fair, I don't even think Terence wanted to be in a marriage with Porscha, because let's not forget, this man tried to fucking get out the first week and it didn't happen. It really didn't happen. Anyway, we go to the confessions of the couch. It's explained that Brad and Shona are not there because the experts felt that they needed to have that space in which to talk to each other and get back on an even keel, because they were very much struggling in this process. So then we get to find out, I think it might be in this episode, I believe it's in this episode, we get to find out exactly what happened between them. So then first on the couch is Roz and Thomas, and basically they're saying that it's been their best week, which it kind of has. And basically Thomas was quite eloquently put when he said that he walked to the couch without dread in his heart. And basically Roz had confirmed that it's a great progression, and I'll keep saying that these two do look compatible. They do look good with each other. They really, really do. So I'm hoping that they can come over these rough patches that they've had to begin with and to start with, because they are literally working at the relationship. So when Peggy turns around and says, oh, Ella and Nathaniel shouldn't be here because their relationship is just friendship, not realizing the effort and the work that they're putting into it, then the same would be said for Roz and Thomas, because at the get-go their relationship was not great. It was based around friendship, but they're literally putting the work in to make the changes that they need to make. So Peggy can't judge anybody's travel or journey on this process by our own yardstick, because at the end of the day, you don't know what's going on in each and everybody else's relationship at the end of the day. So you should not comment on it. Concentrate on your own, unless someone specifically comes to you to say, oh, I need your advice on something, oh, I want to talk to you about something, then yeah, by all means, have that chat with them. But if they don't, keep your opinions to your hearted self, is what I'm going to say. So basically, in the intimacy week, they're saying that the task worked well, and it kind of broke down some barriers in Thomas, and that they're feeling more comfortable with each other. And Rosie said that he's a nice person and he's someone that she can trust, basically. And that's where you start off with, the trust, and then you build that up in that sense. My thing is they get too little bit like gung-ho, like the experts asking them, so did you have sex again? And I'm like, even if I did, I'm the type of person where I don't think I'd really want to answer that question. So I'll be like, I'm gonna plead the fifth on that, because like it's between me and my husband, me and my partner. Do you know what I mean? I'm not gonna really talk about that situation in that sense. I don't really want people and everybody knowing, yeah, I had you know, the full on with my person. They don't need to know that. But I think by the way that they got embarrassed and everything like that, everybody knew they'd had they did the fandango. Everybody knew they did the fandango. So their decision was to stay, as we already knew it would have been to stay. So then we go to Bianca and JJ. And oh my God. If they were an island, them two would not be on it together. Let's just put it this way. They'd be on opposite ends of the island. Because it's just not going to work. It really is just not going to work with them at all. Bianca was talking about, like, back at the marriage, she was happy and she was comfortable around him. And JJ then goes into the soliloquy of what he likes and what he was essentially looking for in a person, in that sense, in terms of looks wise. And I'm like, here comes your shallow bit. Here comes your shallow. You shallow. He likes the plastic fantastic at the end of the day. He's not really fussed on the matter in them. He's not really fussed on how they are in personality wise, just as long as they look good. That's what JJ is. He's shallow. He is really shallow. And basically he's turned around and says he's not in this to sleep with someone. And I'm like, it's not about sleeping with someone, my dear. It's about showing the person that you're with some kind of affection, showing them that you actually do fancy them, the same way Ella keeps on saying with Nathaniel, showing them that you do fancy them, that actually you do want them to be around you. You do want to be in this marriage. You're not showing Bianca anything at all, because you don't want to be there, because you don't like the way she looks. And he needs to just say it so people will know exactly what type of person this is at the end of the day. JJ is shallow as hell. Absolutely shallow as hell. And it's the fact that now you've got this lovely girl that's been placed with this fuck of a man at the end of the day, start to break down her self-confidence and have her questioning herself and making her feel that there's something wrong with her, when there's absolutely nothing wrong with her in the slightest. And this is why I say these people need to, like, when they're seeing certain behaviors coming from people, they need to try and nip this shit in the bud and not allow it to carry on forever and a flipping day, further impacting the person that they're with. So Bianca basically turned around and says that she's worried she's going to start checking out. I would have checked out before I even got to the seats. Like, you've been in this marriage with this person, you're now living with this person. You will know, you will have an inkling whether this is working or not. You would definitely have an inkling whether this is working or not. And if it didn't work from the get-go and it's still not changing, or something's still not happening that you wish to get to the point where you want to get to, then you might as well check out from here and say, you know what, yeah, it may be early days, but I've given it my best shot, and I know it's not going to move anywhere from here. Because let's put it this way, when I get to the next episodes, it would have saved you the heartache of what you're going to be witnessing and seeing from here on out in terms of JJ and his lackluster effort. It would definitely answer your questions, Bianca. in terms of why he isn't the way he needs to be with you. They made the decision to stay, and I to be fair, I don't know why. I don't know why, because I don't see how they're going to work on it. I really don't. I don't see where it's going to go. So, yeah. So then we get to Tasha and Paul, and there's not much to say about them. They're doing really well. They're getting on well. Tasha is basically says that she feels safe in Paul's company and she doesn't really want to be anywhere else, and their decision was to stay. Then we get on to Peggy and George. Peep. Everybody got clapped. Everybody got a round of applause, as you normally do when they went to the chairs, and when they come back, Peggy and George was bare silent. I thought Tumbleweed is gonna freaking well come through the screen in a minute, because that was like shh, shh. No one, not a sound, and they must have felt that. Like, they really must have felt that, because I would have. And then I had to sit there and then dissect their marriage and their relationship in front of people who don't really like them, to be fair. So Peggy breaks down, as she does all the time in these situations. She breaks down and says that it's been a really, really tough week, and feels that she's in the middle in regards to how people think of George and then how George reacts to certain situations, and says that there was no thought to her from George at all in regards to the shit and demolition that he caused that night at the end of the day. She's saying he's like a bull in a china shop, but he needs to stop saying what he thinks people want to hear, because George at this point was quite contrite and basically saying, look, I apologize, I should have at least took a step back and considered what it was I was going to achieve in what I was going to do, but I didn't, and I do apologize. And I'm like, okay, so where's the George that said the next morning, even down when it was coming to confessions on the couch, where's the George that says that he stands by what he says and he doesn't give a F what other people think about him? So you and Peggy have had this conversation. She's let you know how happy she is in regards to this conversation, and the fact that she nearly lost a friendship with Ella over the situations with George and things that have been said. Now, bearing in mind, it was Peggy that said this shit about Ella and Nathaniel, not George. George didn't say it. It was Peggy, and she said it on camera at the end of the day, in terms of them shouldn't be there because of a friendship relationship. And she talked about Porscha and Terence. And when they were talking about when Jay brought in the situation in regards to what happened that night with the spin the bottle, she didn't want to speak up and say to George, now leave it gets left here. She didn't want to speak up. So I don't know how you can then sit on a couch crying your little heart out to say that you've had a tough week. You put yourself in that position. You and George put yourself in that position to have that tough week, because at the end of the day, all you had to do was shh, out my business. As the song goes, drink water and mind my business. That's what you should have done. Hydrated yourself, walked off and said, ain't my business. That's what she should have done, but she didn't. She didn't. So she's reaping what she sowed. Both of them are reaping what they sowed at the end of the day. And I have no empathy for them. Have no empathy or sympathy for them. They reap what they sowed. So basically, their decision was to stay. Yes, she did some elongated soliloquy of why she's saying what she's saying and and to be fair, I can't be asked to go into it, because Peggy's trying to paint herself as though she's the hard done by one, and she's not. At the end of the day, she's trying to blame George for everything, but she cannot. She needs to take some responsibility for what she caused too, but I don't see her doing that in the slightest, and no one is calling her out on it. Like, no one is calling her out on it, that she needs to take responsibility for the things that she said and the pain that she's caused to other people within that experiment, but no one's called her out on her bullshit. So then we get to Jordan and Erica, and of course they're gushing about each other because their marriage is going on fine in that sense. He says that it's good and amazing, and Erica basically saying was that from the get-go they felt that there was something there for each other, which I'm happy for them for at the end of the day. But I think Erica is putting her relationship with Jordan on some type of pedestal, especially when it comes to her equating her marriage to the long-standing couples and where she believes the long-standing couple should be. And I'm just like, you've been in there but a minute, so you can't really comment on where these couples, in your perception, you believe that they should be, because then you can border on the obnoxious territory. And that's all I'm going to say at this point in regards to Erica. So basically, they made the decision to stay. Then we get to our lovely Ella and Nathaniel. And basically, they were talking about how there's so much stress in terms of being able to let go with the person that you're with. And Nathaniel did speak about the fact that, again, he brought up the fact that I feel that I am with my best friend, but Ella doesn't want to hear that, my guy. Ella does not want to hear that. Ella wants to hear that I'm either with my soulmate, I'm with the best person of who I can be with, the best version of me, X, Y, Z, not the best friend, because Ella knows you two are best friends. Ella knows you two are best friends. Ella knows you've got her back, but she wants a husband, not a best friend. Even though the one and two are the same, you want your husband to be your best friend, but she wants to be able to move on in their marriage. She wants to be able to move on because it is taking too long. It is taking too long at the end of the day. And as I say, if you stay in the friend zone for too long, you know that that's where you're going to malinger to. Basically, you're just going to be the best friend. That's it. There's not going to be no marriage with that. I really hope that they can work things out, because I do see them as a really, really, really good couple, and I do see them as quite of a strong couple. So I know what's coming in the next episode, and we will talk about it. We will delve deep into it. But, and this is why I say, when situations are not necessarily working in a relationship, it's then easy for someone's eyes to be turned. It's easy for someone's head to be turned by someone else, because they're kind of showing them the instant attraction that they're used to. But Ella needs to be very, very careful. Needs to be very, very careful in any type of situation like that, and make the best decisions. So they made the decision to stay. Forgot to say that. They made the decision to stay. So then we get to Laura and Arthur. And basically, they were saying that they haven't had as much quality time with each other because Arthur wasn't very well. And Arthur said, basically, she's funny and she makes me grow. And everyone started laughing. And I'm like, she goes, no, not in that way. And I'm like, and then she turns around and she says that, yes, they have become more intimate. They've been having heavy petting. And I was on the Kiwi for Tasha when she said heavy petting. What the fuck is that? And I'm like, what is heavy petting in your books, Laura? What is heavy petting? Where do you stop? You stop just before the penetration part, but everything else is a go. Is that what heavy petting means? And then Arthur brings up the fact that he has a foot fetish. Could have done without knowing that fact, my guy. Because all I'm gonna see is, if you've ever watched this movie by Adam Deacon called Anotherhood, where he puts the tomato ketchup on the girl's toes and sucks it off. That's all I'm going to see in my head now. That's all I'm going to see. It's a double yellow line. But anyway, that's all I'm going to see. Because I was like, I could have done without that picture, Arthur. Really could have done without it. But anyway, they made the decision to stay. We get to Jay and Luke. And of course, there's nothing really to say about Jay and Luke, except that I think Luke was trying to make an issue where there was none. And I think the experts saw that and had to rein it back in and say, nah, come on. Yous are getting on really well. Do you know what I mean? There's no need. There's no need for you to be thinking in these negative thoughts. And I would agree, at the end of the day, there's no need, because yous are getting on and communicating really, really well. So they made the decision to say. And then, last but not least, we get to Terence and Porscha. And oh, my boy. Oh, Lord. Oh, my God. Terence and Porscha. Oh, that was a sight to behold. That's all I can say. That was an absolute sight to behold in terms of what happened with Terence and Porscha. So basically said, Porscha said that things are good between her and Terence. She did not cop Terence's face when she said that, because Terence was on a different plane altogether. Terence's plane had already left the airport and wasn't coming back by that point. Okay, it's just that Porscha didn't know, and she was going to catch up with where Terence was. So Terence basically said that living together was fine, and then brought up the drinking game, and basically said he feels like it was a silly game at the end of the day. And then she sighed when he was talking about how it made him feel. Now my thing is Porscha, you can't sigh. At the end of the day, Terence's feelings are valid. Terence's feelings are very much valid, and this is the side of Porscha that comes out where she accepts no responsibility for her behaviour and blames outward influences for how she's reacted and behaved in certain situations, and she can't do that. She cannot go through life like that. Well, she kind of has, because she got to the grand old age that she is and still not accepting any responsibility for the shit that she does. So Terence carried on and saying that he doesn't know if he is more hurt or disappointed in Porscha in that sense. And she basically said that she apologized and she said sorry for making him feel that way, but the apology was it was indifferent. It fell on deaf ears because, as I said, Terence was already out the door. Terence already had his foot there as the doorstop at the end of the day from the previous weeks. He was just seeing and biding his time of where he was going to do and what he was going to do, and he made his decision at that. I believe he made his decision at the dinner party when things got too drama filled and Porscha was a part of that drama. He made his decision then and there of what he was going to do next. So basically he said that if he had done what Porscha had done and kissed 4 different women, he said it would have blown up. It would have blown up. No matter what Porscha said, it would have blown up, and I agree, it would have. She would not have accepted that in the slightest. She really would not have. So for her to sit there and say, well, you know, X, Y, no, Porscha, you know you wouldn't have accepted that in the slightest. So basically, I think it was Porscha or Terence, one of them. I think it might have been Porscha. No, it was definitely Porscha actually, who said she's not a jealous person, but she is territorial. So I'm kind of like, well, what does that mean? Because to me, jealousy and territorial means one and the same. That you class the person that you're with as some part of your territory. So if anyone was to encroach on that territory, you would not see it as a safe haven. You would go to bat. You would go to war for that little bit of territory that you've claimed, basically. So in actuality, you are a type of a jealous person. So she was saying the game was the game, and I'm like, you're so blasé with it, Porscha, like really blasé with it. So you're literally just throwing out Terence's issues with it. Because me myself, would I have an issue with it? Thinking about it, it depends. It would depend, because if I've left and something occurred and the person didn't come to me and I found out from someone else that it happened, then yes, I would have a complete issue with it. But if the event occurred and they've come to me, they've sat down and had a full-on conversation with me about what happened after I left and what they did and da-da-da-da-da, we'd have that conversation. Would I feel a little bit stung and hurt? Yes, I would do at the end of the day, but I don't think I'll go to the depths that Terence went to, because he had those conversations with Porscha, or Porscha had those conversations with him, and not once throughout all of those conversations has Porscha pointed out that he had an issue. So he was kind of side blinding her right now, to the point where she was trying to do damage control from all left, right and centre. But Terence had already checked out by that point. Terence had checked out. There was no coming back for them in that regard. So I'm glad that the experts as well picked up on the fact that Porscha needs to take responsibility for what she did, which she needs to do. At the end of the day, she needs to take responsibility for her part and how Terence is feeling and how this has all played out. Basically, he said that he's happy, but something isn't right at that moment for him. And I think it's when she, as I said, it's when she blew it up at the dinner table and didn't give him the chance to air his grievances and step back. And for her to step back and say, you know what? I will. I'll just keep stum. At this point, I'll just keep stum. Let them say what they gotta say. If Terence needs to deal with it, he would have dealt with it on her behalf. But I didn't see him doing that at the beginning of the dinner party when George was going at Porscha before they went into the dinner party. He didn't defend her in any way, shape or form, or their marriage or their relationship. He just stood back and was smizing at the end of the day. So this is where I knew that from when Terence heard that information from Porscha herself, I think he then kind of checked out. As again, nobody still doesn't pick up on who the fuck Porscha was kissing that night. Who was she kissing that night? Because they need to have the same vitriol passed at them. So then they go to the decision, and this is where it fucks all the way up. And Porscha wrote stay, and Terence wrote leave. And basically the expert said to them, because someone's wrote stay, you know, you cannot leave. And Terence was like, I don't care, I am leaving today. And Porscha was like, he's just doing a knee-jerk reaction. She was completely side-blinded and surprised in terms of what's occurred on the Confessions of the Couch. And because she was saying that Terence didn't tell her nothing, he was still kissing her, he was still hugging her, he was making feel like they were in this marriage together. So she feels completely side-blinded by what he's doing. So Porscha then turned around and said that she is not changing her decision, because at the end of the day they were there to work on it, and she just believes that he's doing a knee-jerk reaction, and that's why he wants to leave. It's like what he did the last time, and then things worked its way out. I kind of think things didn't work its way out the last time, judging by what Terence is doing right now at the end of the day. But my thing is, you can't force someone to stay where they don't want to be. You cannot force someone to stay when you don't want to be. And when Terence tells you emphatically the next time, I am not going, I'm leaving, yeah, and you can't make me stay here for another week, I am going, they had no choice but to let him go, to let them both go. And I'm like, it was the best thing for them at the end of the day, because Terence had checked out. Terence had completely checked out of that marriage and that relationship. But as again, the poor behaviour of Terence is in the fact that he did not communicate any of this to Porscha, so Porscha could have been prepared to be dropped from a great height. That's the only thing I would say about that. He didn't prepare Porscha in any way, like shape or form, that this may be a possibility, that this may happen on this given day. But as again, I shall end it there, because that's where the episode ends. But I shall be back in quick succession with the new one. As if you can, please hit that subscribe button. Please hit that notification button so when you know I am on and doing videos. And I'll be back to grace your screens pretty soon. Peace out.